Jai. Sachinandana Gaura Hari ki Jai. Radha Gopinath Ju ki Jai. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Bol. Kishore Mohan Ji ki Jai. Om Agina Timirandasya Gyanam Jala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmaye Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam pravachantam anapetyam apetya krityam dvaipayano viraha katara achurava putreti tammayatayo tarvo vinidustam sarvabhutam munimanatoshmi bhaktya vihina aparara lakshay shiptascha karmadi tarangamadye kripamai tvam sharanam prapana brinde namaste charanaravindam Bhajami radham aravinda netram smarami radham madhurashmitasyam vadami radham karuna paratram tato mamanasti gatirna chapi. I first of all offer millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Asto Tarzara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again, millions of times, unto our most beloved Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Asto Tarzara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, Dandavat Pranams. So, for the last 2 nights, I've been reading through this Venu Gita and making some comments on Srila Gurudev's commentary, or explaining what I've understood more from hearing from Srila Gurudev. This evening I'm feeling most unqualified to actually speak on this topic at all. I was coming over here this evening, I think, what am I doing speaking on this topic? It's so elevated. But I am feeling pushed completely by my beloved Gurudev to do so. This is his desire. He has distributed the wealth of his heart in the form of these rasik shastras, not just to sit in a shelf or to gaze at or, occasionally look at and read. So because of our intense study of Srimad Bhagavatam through the morning time, we've, I believe, built something of a foundation to layer these topics on top of securely. Without the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, none of these topics can even be remotely approached, what to speak of understood to any degree. So, always taking the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu upon our heads, in our hearts, we approach this very elevated topic. It's elevated because of its confidentiality. It breaks through the boundaries of any social behavior, etc. It's like off the scale, so to speak, in the material consideration. Other philosophies and religions of the world don't remotely approach the intimacy of these type of topics. They don't even want to hear the word sex. They actually sweep it under the carpet like it's a dirty word. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati explains in his beautiful writing at the beginning of Gita Govinda how this sex life is in the atmosphere everywhere. How can we ignore it? How can we not apply it and properly reconcile it under the umbrella of spirituality? How can we not recognize the supreme amorous pastimes? How can we not see that
and be able to reconcile the perverted pastimes in this world. Unless we address absolutely everything, then we're only half-baked. Then we're only going half the show. So we have to go into every single avenue. It's like there's a description of the sun, but how can the sun be described without the darkness being explained? Part of the illumination is to acknowledge the darkness. Unless the darkness is acknowledged, then how is the glory of the sun witnessed or shown? So similarly, these perverted reflections of the spiritual world in the form of the lustful activities of men in this world, they must be purified. And Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, as I explained the other day in that beautiful example from Boston Temple in 1974, how he told all the devotees when there was some agitation there to immediately come into the temple and read from the Rasa Leela pastimes in his Krishna storybook. This is the antidote. Vikridi tam brajavadubi tam javishnu. This hridrogam, this disease of the heart, is purified by hearing these topics. And as I've explained in the last 2 nights, not only hearing them, but also varenyed, speaking them, hearing them, kirtan, having kirtan. We sing these most rasic songs. Radhe Jai Jai Madhava Daite. We sing so many beautiful songs, and we don't enter into the meanings of these bhajans. Even we sing every morning this Guru Vastakam. Shri Radha Yo Madhava Yorapara. We're ringing Nikunja Yuno Rati Keli Sitai. What does this mean? Unless we're actually, who is Guru? Guru is that personality in the Kunj who at every moment is making the sweet arrangements for Radha and Krishna's meeting together. Every single morning, even 2 or 3 times a day, we're meditating on this verse. This is Guru. If we think any less than that, then we are depriving ourselves of the essence and jewel that are very exceptional Srila Gurudev has bestowed upon us. No one else spoke the way Srila Gurudev spoke. We must keep that fire blazing in honor of him. To him, we must take his literature and we must learn, as you weren't here the other night, but we read through almost the whole introduction to this Venu Gita, which I think is the most brilliant essay and explanation of why we should hear and speak these topics. We should hear these topics, and to the very best of our ability, under the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being guided by Srila Gurudev, then as far as our understanding goes, then we should explain as we understand the loving world which unfolds in the Srimad Bhagavatam. We've been going through so far, some of you are, not all of, most of you are actually following it. It's only Kishore and Sudevi and Harinamananda Prabhu. But we've been going through the first 3 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, very carefully, just describing the whole sort of sequence of events. But all of these events, almost in every single chapter, certainly in every 10 or 12 shlokas, there's reference to Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's reference to this prayojan. So without going to this prayojan, how are we going to actually catch the essence, the bhakti sar of the Srimad Bhagavatam? It's contained within the 10th canto. When Vyasadeva saw in his trance the principal startling realization were the sweet childhood pastimes of Krishna, and then the beautiful relationship between Krishna and the gopis. This is what was most profound in his revelation within that trance. So to omit this, to be shy, to be fearful, what is fear a symptom of? It's a symptom of Vaidhi Marg. Yes, we are all performing Vaidhi Marg, of course, the rules and regulations. Yet our focus is on Raganuga. That is the difference. We've understood what is the principle. This rag, this thirst to attain the moods of the Brajaramanis, the moods of the gopis of Vrindavan. This is our essence, this is our goal. And we don't have lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes, really. As I've explained in the last couple of days, we should find the powerful present. and address it now, today. There is no such thing as the future in one sense at all. It's totally material. Our spiritual essence is made of this eternal time. So if we're connecting with this eternal time and with the best of our ability from all the teachings that we've heard and received from our beloved Gurudev, then go forward with courage into these areas. And as I explained in the first day, it's actually not so simple to speak on these topics. I explained how, because the false ego is not allowed to come in when describing these topics, really. If you're describing all the parts of the first cantos, then you can still retain your mood of self-importance. But once you get into these very intimate, loving conceptions between the gopis and Krishna, really there's no room at all for that part of our nature, that material part of our nature. So I'm praying to Srila Gurudev to have the wisdom or the intelligence and understanding to know how to somehow present these topics. I don't know how to present these topics, but I'm going to find out in this lifetime. I'm not going to leave it for another few lifetimes. Gurudev is literally internally pushing me. All the time I lived here in Vrindavan for many years, I told before, I was so interested in the first 9 cantos. Always going over, and Gurudev literally pushing me in my mind. Oh, come to the 10th canto, come to the 10th canto. So I'm still trying to come to the 10th canto. So with your mercy, collectively, we can hear these talks. I'm just going to read directly, and if any of you have any comments or any questions as I'm reading, then by Gurudev's mercy, I may be able to answer or may not answer, depending on Gurudev's mercy. But at least collectively we can go into these areas. Actually, all day I was quite nervous about reading this again. And then as soon as I sat down and began to read it, I felt great. I felt completely fine. It just all evaporated. So this is the nature of these topics. They hold such a mood, such a power for the consciousness, because it's appealing to our essential nature, our soul. It has nothing to do with the material situation whatsoever. It's beyond material calculation. So with confidence, I'm going to just read ahead. We were reading from the 7th verse last time, and I was explaining at the beginning, in the light of appreciation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that this is one of the verses that Mahaprabhu specifically wanted to appreciate from the gopis' point of view. Akshangvatam phalam idam na paramam vidama. That the gopis, it's the picture on the cover of Venu Gita. If anyone doesn't have 2 copies for 150 rupees. Hare Krishna. Okay. So I was explaining yesterday how Mahaprabhu, Krishna himself, has experienced receiving the blissful, love-laden glances of the gopis as he's going to the cowherd pasturing grounds. But he has not experienced the moods with which the gopis threw those glances at him. These are the moods that Mahaprabhu wants to personally experience. This Mahabhav is not accessible to Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna reaches a mood of Ruta or Adi Ruta. These 3 higher stages, Mohan, Modan and Madan. Mahabhav. Krishna does not experience that because he's not the recipient. He's not the relishable object. By tasting the relishable object, the taster, the Ashraya, Sri Radha, experiences millions of times more bliss than the object itself. Exactly as sugar itself wants to taste itself. Everyone is experiencing and falling down, rolling in ecstasy, tasting the sweetness of that sugar. But what about the sugar itself? It doesn't get to taste itself. But in this case, it actually does. Mahaprabhu takes the mood of the Ashraya. He comes as our Bhajan Shiksha Guru to explain specifically Parakya Bhav. This is why he came. So it's our bounden duty as disciples of our beloved Gurudev, who has given us so many literatures and spoken in so many hours on these various topics with such clarification. No one else could do it, it seemed, in the Gaudiya circle at that time with the same conviction, with the same confidence, because perhaps no one else had recognized those truths in the same way. But Srila Gurudev was empowered to actually continue this current of Raganuga. So as his disciples, it is our duty to also follow as carefully as we can and not to be fearful of these topics. Okay, so I've explained everything. So now I'm allowed to go in. Have the green light. I remember one time in Holland, and I was speaking on this years and years ago, and some objections were coming. So, objections will always come, but we must just go on. So I'm reading here from page 51. This is practically where we reached yesterday, where Gurudev has begun to explain. First of all, he's explaining the Sakis' moods in their separation from Krishna, discussing together in their homes the beautiful sound of Krishna's flute and the beauty of his entire features, face, body, everything. And it's all been explained from a Saki's point of view. But now Srila Gurudev is bringing in the most essential item to explain it from the Manjari's point of view. The Manjaris are not looking for this sambhog icchamayi. I hope you all appreciate these terminologies. Yesterday I said many terminologies, but someone came and said they didn't understand anything. So just take a note of it and look it up.
One good place to look it up is the Jaiva Dharma Index. It's really good.
Yep, absolutely. Do it all the time. Yep, it's very good. Yeah, so sambhog icchamayi means the meeting. That Saki who has a desire, icchamayi, desire, a desire to meet with Sri Krishna directly. But the Manjari's mood, the Nitya Sakis and the Pran Sakis, their moods are to bring Radha and Krishna together. This meeting, this is what we read about yesterday. Do you remember? We read yesterday? Here? Who remembers?
Yeah.
No one nodding?
Yes.
Everyone forgotten already. This is beautifully done, Vichitri. I was reading yesterday from the other edition, and they've just given me a copy of this one I was reading today, comparing it directly with the other one. It's so much smoother, so much more beautifully done. Well, it's very well done. So we read from, in the 7th verse yesterday, those verses from the Adi Lila chapter 4, describing how the where is it here? Oh, the Madhya Lila 8. Describing how that those who... Where is it? Try and get it exactly. That the creepers and the leaves and the flowers and the buds do not even slightly try to embrace the tree directly. Gurudev has given this example so many times. When a creeper embraces a tree, the joy of its flowers, leaves and manjaris automatically increases. In Sri Vrindavan, Srimati Radhika stands supreme among all gopis. She is famous as the wish-fulfilling creeper of love for Sri Krishna. Some of her sakis have the nature of leaves, some are like flowers and some are like manjaris. That is why they are always eager for Srimati Radhika to meet with Krishna and are carried away by the bliss of their union. And then there's this long quote from the Madhya Lila chapter 8, which we read yesterday, and explained this very essential point that Gurudev is bringing in here to give us a deeper appreciation. This is the Bhakti Sar of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is this appreciation of the intimate relationship of affection that the gopis are able to offer to Sri Krishna, to completely control Sri Krishna. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes it as the greatest exhibition of love known in existence. This is performed by the gopis of Vrindavan. The greatest exhibition of love. The whole world is searching for love. Our hearts are searching for love. At every moment we're searching for this ingredient. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Somehow, somehow, somehow. And if we begin clearly to take our direction from the gopis, if we're seeing the gopis, the Braja Ramanis, we said in this verse the other day, what's it? Aradeyo Bhagavan Shatanayas Tatam Ramya Kachit Upasana Vraja Vardur Ragena Vakalpite. That this worship of the gopis, Upasana, is the highest known. So to read about these truths, to hear about these truths regularly, will completely keep us on track with our bhajan. We are only in Vrindavan to perform bhajan. What other reason are we here for? Are we here to buy some shopping, or what else could we possibly have in our minds except to be here? So to hear about the gopis regularly, we should in our practices regularly take these 5 Gits from the Srimad Bhagavatam, at least take some taste each day. Okay, so I'm reading from page 51, the second paragraph down. Just as we can get a glimpse of the moods of Sri Radhika and the other principal gopis by deliberating on this verse, Akshanvatam Phalam Idam, and others from Venu Gita, hints of the moods of the Sakhi Manjaris can also be found therein. Now understand the context of this particular chapter. There's 4 chapters where Shukadeva Goswami is explaining the very intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna, or Krishna's intimate relationships. The chapter prior to this is the autumn season, where the whole setting is explained for this Venu Gita to land on. Prior to that is the swallowing of the fire. It's in Sakya Rasmo. And then the chapter after this, that is stealing the young gopis' clothes. And then the chapter after that is the Brahman's wives. And then it goes into Govardhan Leela. So there's only these 4 chapters here that Shukadeva Goswami is in this mood. We see through the 10th canto, sometimes Shukadeva Goswami comes into this mood and then he comes out of it again. Sometimes he goes for only 1 chapter. Sometimes it's 3 or 4 chapters, like that. So we can start to see this mood of Shukadeva Goswami. It's described by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur after the, when was it? Just before the Brahma Vimohan Leela, when Parikshit Maharaj, he asks him the question, why was the Agasura pastime not described earlier? And then it's described how Shukadeva Goswami actually goes into an ecstatic trance, and how Narad and Vyas and the other great sages there, they have to chant very loudly to bring him out of that trance to continue with his narration, because he's so overwhelmed with these Braj pastimes. But we also see the if we want to analyze the chapters and try and get more of a closer insight on Shukadeva Goswami's moods, where we're trying to resonate with, we're trying to get closer to his moods, then we see the way that the chapters are arranged, or the way that he speaks. And it's not always consistent. It's not always directly in any sort of timely order necessarily. It's as his mood is coming to him. And I explained this previously about the essential nature of finding in whatever seva we're performing now as sadhaks, to be looking for that place, that mood of bhav. Without having a mood of bhav, then really our practices are very dry. And I've been explaining regularly the different symptoms of bhav, etc., but also having that sincere mood of to bring pleasure to Radha and Krishna. Nothing like dull, robotic religionists or anything of that nature. This is not the nature of our spiritual journey at all. It's completely blown the boundaries of everything, even by discussing topics like this. So, always be keeping that mood in mind. How is my bhav being focused? The Sakhi Manjaris are eager to arrange the meetings of Radha and Krishna and to taste the rasa of serving the divine couple. In order to relish the meaning of these verses in this mood, it is necessary to understand a general analysis of the word meanings, as well as their special inner purports. which can be explained in this way. Now Gurudev is explaining. O Saki, when Brajesh Sutta Sri Krishna and Brajesha Sutta Srimati Radhika meet together, they decorate and dress each other in a manner befitting their youthful age. While the enchanting Venu is kissing Krishna's lips and Srimati Radhika's face is being served by her arched eyebrows, the prince and princess of Braj look tenderly at their very dearest ones. Only those eyes which have seen these sweet faces are victorious. The eyes of one who has not seen this has been utterly wasted. So my understanding of this is that these others are the manjaris. These are the only ones present while the divine couple are engaged in their amorous talks. So they are looking with love-laden glances on these manjaris. These manjaris are seeing them, and they're saying that this is the perfection of the eyes. Because initially, the first meaning of this verse, Lakshan Vatam Phalam Idam, is that it's the perfection of the eyes to see Krishna and Baladev on their way to the cowherd grazing pastures. But now as we get more understanding of the moods of the gopis expressing this verse, now we're understanding it in a different way. Actually, it's Radha and Krishna's divine pastimes directly that they're saying, if you don't see this, then your eyes are just useless. So how beautiful. Gurudev is giving us this insight. Here, Brajesha Sutayo has an inner meaning. Brajesha Sutash Cha and Brajesha Sutash Cha refer respectively to Brajesh Sutta Srimati Radhika, the daughter of the king of Braj, Rishabhanu Maharaj, and Brajesha Sutta Sri Krishna, the son of the king of Braj, Nanda Maharaj. Thus both of them are indicated. So Gurudev has grammatically explained the words in this verse to say that it's Radha as well as Krishna that is being referred to, not simply Baladev. This is the life of the acharyas, is that they seek deeper and deeper, more confidential, more intimate meanings in all of the verses.
Two different words, Sut and Sutta.
Yes.
Sut refers to male, and Sutta, we call it Rishabhanu Sutta.
Yes.
It stands for female.
Yes, so there's female and male referred to here.
Sut and Sutta.
Yes. It's like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would relish these verses directly with Swarup Damodar Rai Ramananda in the Gambhira, regularly, in the same way. The phrase Anuvena Justam indicates that first the Venu is kissed by Krishna and then by Srimati Radhika. Descriptions of this are given in the Goswami's literatures. During the midday pastimes, sometimes Srimati Radhika takes the Venu from Krishna's hands, puts him on her lips, that's the flute, on her lips, and plays him. At that time, Sri Radha and Krishna become absorbed in each other and cast charming sidelong glances at their dearest devoted Sakis. Seeing this sweet picture of the divine couple, these Sakis offer their everything to them. Whoever beholds this sight has fulfilled the purpose of their eyes. This is the secret objective of the Sakis in Sri Radha's own party. The gopis, overflowing in bhav, were only able to say, "This is the success of one who has eyes." They were not able to say any more. The reason for this is that their throats immediately choked up upon remembering Krishna's beautiful form, and they were not able to speak further. The supremely Rasik Braja maidens are extremely grave by nature, and their utterances of love are also equally profound. One or two words is enough to reveal their deep, mysterious moods. What is the need of correct grammar, subject, object, verb, and adjectives to properly express their bhavs? This proves that the gopis are supremely skillful and are the crown jewels amongst all rasiks, those experienced in tasting the nectar of loving exchanges. So now we're hearing this commentary together by Srila Gurudev, but in our own bhajan, when we go back to our places, we can remember these topics, and I hope that by reading this together collectively, you will all be inspired to read it more often. I hope that something will touch our hearts and we will want to be with this beautiful scripture more and more often.
This is one of the 3 books that Gurudev wrote himself.
Just explain to everyone the reason for the 2 versions, because many people ask me, you know clearly why the pink version came and then this version. Can you say loudly so we can hear?
Gurudev spoke these classes in English many years ago to his kind people. So then some devotees transcribed them and did some editing and published in that pink version. But there's many mistakes in that. So then Radha Priya from Pune, she was taking that book and she was going to translate it into Hindi. And she went to Gurudev and she said, oh, there's so many mistakes in Siddhanta actually in this book. And Gurudev said, well, it's in English for the Westerners, that's good enough. But for the Indians, it's not good enough. So then Gurudev stopped Radha Priya from translating it, and he wrote the book now. The book we have, he wrote it in Hindi, and Umadidi told me every morning he would read the verse, one verse, and then read Jiva Goswami's and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentaries. And he would meditate, and then he would sit down and he would write the commentary, this Anandana Vardhani Tika that we have. And that was Gurudev's meditation. And he did one verse every day. So this is one of the few books that he completely wrote himself. Nobody else wrote this. He did it himself from scratch.
I always find it very, very inspiring to hear exactly how these books manifested, in what condition. Because, for example, the Bhagavad Gita was a different set of circumstances, completely to that. He didn't personally write so much of that, actually.
Yeah, this book he wrote the whole thing himself, and actually it's very simple Hindi, even I can understand the Hindi. And it's very sweet, extremely sweet how he's got the gopis' conversations directly speaking, and that's one of the great potencies in this book. The gopis themselves are expressing their feelings, and it's in such a simple-hearted, pure and powerful way. Maybe this is the last book Gurudev wrote himself. Then other people started taking over.
Wow.
But this one he did himself. It's special, very special, this book.
So I hope Srila Gurudev is very satisfied that we are reading this commentary that was penned directly from him, together. And I'm trying to put it in different Siddhantic places simultaneously as reading it, because it's not so easy always for people just to listen to a recitation. It's easier to hear something. So I'm trying to, whatever I've understood. We've discussed quite at length, you weren't here, about Purvarag. We've discussed the 3 types of Purvarag yesterday. This Proda, Samanjasaha, and Sadharana. Purvarag. These differences. And this is Proda. This is the highest type of Purvarag. Even though Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentary, is saying very clearly that the gopis had already met with Krishna. They had already tasted the sweetness of his lotus feet. Nevertheless, it's still termed as Purvarag, as I explained yesterday. Purvarag is this anticipation in meeting. It's this anticipation prior to meeting. So this is the highest type of Purvarag, and it is a type of Vipralamba. 4 types of Vipralamba: Purvarag, Man, Premvachitya, and Pravash. We've discussed these in the last couple of days. So this is putting this in its Rasa Tattva situation simultaneously, just to give it some strength. Because if we just hear the sweet pastimes, we need to be balanced. I need to be balanced anyway, because I'm not balanced if I don't hear the rest of it. Okay. Hearing Krishna's flute song, the Brajaramanis, whose feelings of love are always fresh and new, became as if deranged with the appearance of Astasatvika and many other kinds of bhavs. So this ever fresh and new, it's called Naveen. Naveen means ever. It cannot be prem unless it is ever fresh and new. Pure transcendental love has to be like Sri Radha. She thinks as soon as she's out of the association of Krishna that she's never actually met him before. She has that feeling. It's so powerful. So it's always so fresh. This is the nature of transcendental love. If this inspires our hearts to connect more with this excellence of the spiritual world, this is all we need for Raganuga Bhakti, is this commodity of lobhya, greed, rag. This is the ingredient. Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavitamati Kriyatam Yatita Labhyate Tatra Lolyam Apimulyam Ekalam Janma Koti Sukritiyan Alabhyate. This is the qualification for Raganuga Bhakti, is just simply the enthusiasm, the greed to attain it. But in a composed way, not too radical. This incited their eagerness to meet with Krishna, and by just a few words they revealed their hearts to those gopis of the same mood. All the Braja gopis are Krishna's life, and they are all deeply committed to giving him pleasure. But their bhavs are not the same. It is very important. I've stressed many, many times, because people have asked me different questions, and I've explained that according to our particular taste, sometimes, every single jivatma, every single living entity has a separate rasa with Krishna. Krishna wants to taste that specific ras of you. No one else in existence has the same mood. That is the beauty of the jiva, and Krishna wants to taste it. And of course, as it comes into the higher areas of realization, the gopis in particular, their moods are even more extraordinarily developed in the mood of their attraction to Krishna. They're mature in the moods of their attraction. So Gurudev is saying here that bhavs are not all the same. Consequently, there are subtle differences in their eagerness to see Krishna and their desire to meet with him. Obviously, wouldn't it be so monotonous if so many of them had the same moods? It's described there are 350 million gopis dancing in the Rasa Leela, and all of them have a slightly different mood. Krishna is attracted to each individually so much. It is impossible to describe and fully taste all the individual moods of the multitudes of gopis, but Krishna can. Shri Radha has manifested all these gopis, her Kaya Vyuha, manifested directly from the body to bring Krishna pleasure. This is why she manifests so many gopis. Now, Srimad Bhagavatam shows how to relish the sweetness of Krishna's Venu Nad by following two different moods. Those of Srimati Radhika, the supreme gopi who possesses Mahabhav to the highest degree, and who is also the crown jewel of Krishna's beloved consorts, and those of her devoted Sakhi Manjaris, who have taken shelter of her lotus feet. The commentators as well have given particular importance to describing both these moods. Therefore, all the verses in the Venu Gita are to be relished in this way. Each and every one of Krishna's beloved Brajaramanis is an unfathomable ocean of Mahabhav. No one can count how many towering waves of these moods toss about and swirl through their hearts. And with whatever vision of Krishna appears in the practicing devotee's heart, by the gopi's mercy, he is fully gratified. The sadhak is fully satiated in his efforts to exchange with Sri Krishna, Krishna will fully satisfy that sadhak completely with his particular moods. Actually, as we've been going through these verses and through the Bhagavatam itself, I've understood how little of this I actually know. I came in very confidently like 3 days ago thinking, oh yes, I have something to present here. But as the days go by, I'm feeling less and less and less that I actually do have anything of value to say or comment on these verses. And I think that this is the process of our whole bhajan. The more we begin to realize anything of these topics, the less we definitely feel we understand or know. And therefore the more enthusiastic we become day by day to know, to understand. It's the opposite to assimilating any sort of material knowledge. With the assimilation of material knowledge, you get bigger and bigger and bigger, like the frog. You get puffed up and puffed up and puffed up. But with spiritual knowledge, you seem to get more and more and more insignificant. And this is the process. So verse 8. Kuta pravala bahar stav balu kuta pauj. You read. Kishori has a much better pronunciation. Verse 8. But sing with that same meter. Kuta pravala bahara stavala kapul balabja malanu prakrita paritana victory veshu. Okay.
Kuta pravala barhasta bakoch palabja malanu paridhana vichitra vesha madhye vire jaturalam pashupala goshyam range yatana tavaro kvachagayamano.
Thank you. Translation. One of the Sakis said, O Saki, Sri Krishna and Balaram, singing sweetly amidst the gathering of cows and cowherd boys, are looking absolutely gorgeous, like a pair of most expert dancers, Natavaras. Krishna, dressed in yellow garments, and Baladev, wearing blue, decorate themselves very charmingly with newly grown mango blossoms, peacock feathers, leaves, clusters of flowers, and garlands of many colored lotuses. Oh dear Saki, what can I say about the splendor of their appearance? They look like two incomparably beautiful and skilled dancers performing on stage. The Anandavardhini Vyakar.
I think there's a misspelling in the first line of the Sanskrit because it doesn't flow with the meter. I think it's a misspelling in the first line of the Sanskrit. It does not flow with the meter.
Kuta pravala bahar stav akul palabja.
It's not so important.
Okay. It's nice if you know how to sing it very sweetly. If you hear someone sing very sweetly, these verses are as intoxicating as just hearing the translations. It's described that Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, who we don't hear so much about, he could sing all the verses of the Bhagavatam in 3 different beautiful meters, like a cuckoo. And all the Vaishnavas would come around to hear how beautifully he sang these verses. When this Sanskrit enters into the heart, it makes an impression whether we understand it or not. Without a doubt, the Sanskrit has a great impact because something will resonate internally with that. It's the language of the gods. Are you going to sing it? No? Okay, we'll leave it. Okay. The hearts of the cowherd damsels, imbued with Mahabhav, are always deeply and fully immersed in Sri Krishna's sweet ocean of rasa. The Braja Ramanis are constantly engrossed in remembering, thinking and conversing about him. When they see him and hear his Venu Nad as he comes and goes from cow grazing, they are completely overcome by their intense emotions of love. They cannot contain them. I described the other day the nature of the flute, how Gurudev describes it, how they use their shyness as like a veneer to hide their real feelings. And when the sound of the flute comes, that veneer becomes melted, and that effulgent illumination of their attraction to Krishna starts to become witnessed by those around them. They start to lose their armor, so to speak. Their armor is their shyness. By their shyness, they can contain these tremendous barbs that are swirling within their hearts. But the flute has the audacity to actually melt that shyness. And this is what the gopis are experiencing. When they're sitting together, their shynesses become melted, and therefore when they're with each other conversing, sometimes their shyness goes down completely and they just speak directly what their feelings are. Here in this verse, they're still referring to Baladev Prabhu. So they're still retaining something. Gurudev will explain. Thrown into a helpless state due to their ardent desire to see Sri Krishna, they try to restrain the surge of these emotions in their hearts by revealing their feelings to their intimate Sakhis. Because of shyness and hesitancy, however, they cannot directly express their affection to him. So there's still this veneer there. That is why, although they want to describe the enchanting sweetness of Sri Krishna's face when kissed by the Venu, they instead describe the beauty of Krishna and Balaram both, with the phrase Brajesha Sutayo, the two sons of the king of Braja. But even by doing this, they cannot conceal the barbs hidden in their hearts. In an attempt to cover up their undivided love for Krishna, they purposefully talk about both Krishna and Baladev in this verse, describing their exquisite beauty and other superlative qualities. The Brajaramanis say, "Dear Sakhis, when the two brothers Krishna and Balaram enter Vrindavan to graze the cows in the company of their cowherd friends, it is impossible to describe their incomparable beauty." Krishna is called Lavanamrita. He is the birthplace. He is the origin of all beauty in existence. If we contemplate anything that is beautiful, Krishna is the aggregate of all beauty. He is the birthplace of beauty, and the personification of that beauty is Sri Radha. But Krishna himself is filled with that Lavan Amrita. That's complete beauty. So this is what the gopis are becoming overwhelmed by. One gopi, brimming over with emotion, says to another, "O Saki, we can look at Krishna's form from a distance, but how can we go near him and drink the nectar of his lips? We will feel shy with the respected Balaram there." The second Saki replies, "O foolish one, don't worry. Krishna will look at us and his eyebrows will beg for our love, pranaya. At that time, our regard for public opinion, self-control, and all other restrictions will disappear. Come on, Saki, let us go to see him at once. Then we will just see what happens." So their enthusiasm is increasing. The first Saki exclaims, "Oh no, that is not possible. I can never go in front of him with Dauji there. And not only that, Saki, our husbands, father-in-laws, and other relatives will stop us, and the village elders will hurl sarcastic and caustic comments at us. I feel it is not proper for us to go." On hearing this, the second Saki composes this verse in order to convince her friend to go to her. Kuta pravala bhara stababla palabja. This verse. "O Saki, they appear most astonishing, wearing crowns of soft, newly grown mango leaves, peacock feathers and clusters of flowers on their heads, blue lotuses on their ears, garlands of night lotuses around their necks, golden cloth, pitamba, on Krishna's dark body, and blue cloth, nilambar, on Baladev's fair complexioned body. The twirling pastime lotuses with their right hands, playing sweet music, they dazzled brilliantly amidst the suckers and cows. My dear Saki, it appears as if two clever dramatists are dancing and acting on stage. How can I describe their splendor? So now this is another alternative translation with a different way of presenting it, which is very nice. You see it from a different view from the previous translation. But it's the same verse. Sometimes in the circle of the cowherd boys, the two brothers are immersed in their own ecstatic mood and dance in such a way that the other boys call out, "Sadhu, sadhu, excellent, excellent." Here the word Gamayanu has a deep meaning. Seeing their dancing and hearing them sing a full range of ascending and descending notes, jumping from one key to another, all the sakas lavishly praise them. Sometimes feeling overjoyed in the bhav of their own sweet singing and dancing, the two brothers haughtily ask their friends, "Can any of you sing and dance like this? If so, show us." In this way, the Braja maidens immersed in bhav keep their love for Sri Krishna hidden in their hearts by describing Baladev's sweet beauty and other delightful qualities along with Krishna's. Their internal sentiments, however, reveal themselves through every part of their bodies, their facial expressions, eyes, poses, and language. O Saki, the only lucky ones in Braj are the cowherd boys. Whether at home or in the forest, they are always with Krishna, enjoying with him in so many ways. So now these sanchari bhavs of udveg and what is jealousy? I've forgotten. Isha. So this jealousy is coming in their hearts. Irsha, yes. Irsha, this mood. One of these sanchari bhavs I described yesterday, how the lake of the stai bhav is, these sanchari bhavs are rolling upon it, creating waves of ever increasing astonishment on the original mood, their stai bhav. They get to see, these are just transitory moods, they get to see him all the time, dance and sing with him, and always touch his beautiful body. But the Creator has given us birth as gopis, thus depriving us of this privilege. On top of that, we are wives of respectable families, and thus we cannot see him to our heart's content. If we had been born as gopas instead of gopis, we could be with Krishna all the time and always see him. In this way, our lives would have been blessed. The exalted position of the Brajaramanis, who are overflowing with Mahabhav, is evident here. Although they consider themselves most pitiful and unfortunate, this is the natural characteristic of pure prem. The heart of Sri Shukadev Goswami also became overwhelmed with Gopi Bhav as he recounted these eternal pastimes. That is why, like the gopis, he described the incredible good fortune of the cowherd boys with great exuberance. So here Srila Gurudev is saying that even Shukadev Goswami is hiding his own moods by making reference to Baladev simultaneously as Krishna. So he's also containing his own ability to actually keep on speaking. Actually, no one else had this ability to speak except Sri Rupa Goswami was empowered by Mahaprabhu to speak commentaries and relate pastimes of Krishna. Shukadev Goswami did not have that mercy bestowed upon him, because if he spoke directly about the pastimes the way we've just been describing them by Gurudev, then Shukadev Goswami would have gone into complete trance, Gurudev describes, for 7, 8, 10 weeks, and would not have been able to complete this Bhagavatam recitation to Maharaj Parikshit. But Rupa Goswami was empowered specifically by Mahaprabhu to withstand these separation moods. No one else was. Swarup Damodar Maharaj didn't do it. Rai Ramananda didn't do it. These other personalities didn't do it the way that Rupa Goswami had that ability, that mercy by Mahaprabhu to withstand these separation moods. This was a great speciality, Gurudev describes, of Srila Rupa Goswami, that he had this benediction to withstand these separation moods. So I'll stop there, and tomorrow we can read again verse 9 under Gurudev's guidance. We are most fortunate to be hearing this publicly And it's somewhat confidential because I think everyone here is a Gurudev disciple. It's not like we're in the open marketplace entirely. So, but take advantage of this and relish it in your Naam, Bhajan. Naam is the essence. If we fill our days with Naam, I described just recently this personality, Aniruddha Prabhu was in Radha Kund encouraging so many devotees to chant at least 100,000. If you chant 100,000 a day, your whole being becomes so wound up. It becomes so focused on your object of meditation. You actually have nothing else to do most of the day except to chant. Then you fill in the details of eating and sleeping on the way. So this is the process. And if we have the fortune to hear these topics, then take them with great respect into your heart. Hold them in a very high position and honor them and worship them. Have this on our altar. Worship it deeply. These are directly, as Vichitra Didi has explained, coming from Srila Gurudev's heart, out of his compassion for us. We're lamenting in the darkness of this age of Kali, and yet we have this amazing fortune, this jewel-like personality has walked amongst us for almost 20 years. And what has he left behind for us to relish and chew on and to take advantage of and to recognize that this is our path. He's illuminated it very clearly for us. We simply have to encourage each other to have faith, to remain on this, in this meditation, and to not linger into the paths of Gyan or Karma. Okay? Take heart from this. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Shri Venu Gita ki jai. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhavyevacha Patitanam Bhavnibhyo Vaishnave Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Oh Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Oh Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Oh Jaya Sachinandan Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachinandan Jaya Gaura Hari. Oh Jaya Radha, Gopinath Radha, Gopinath Radhe. Oh Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Oh Jaya Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe, Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe. Oh Radhe Radhe,